Well, good morning. It's so nice this morning. I just felt I had to be outside to do this before, it gains 40 degrees and turns stinking hot. It's all right. I'm enjoying it now. So what I have first for you, I got distracted here lately from my car projects by another necessary project around the farm here. I don't know if you really want to see this, but enjoy. So I really debated on whether or not to show you. I mean, this may look concerning, I don't know, but right behind the house here, and what we have for kind of an archaic septic system, although I suppose it functions exactly like a modern one, is there's a 1,000-gallon holding tank way down below there. And then this, I don't know what this is, 300-gallon tank is sitting on top of it. I hope it's not welded to it. That's going to be a problem if it is. And looking inside the manhole, I had holes through this, so when it rains and so forth, dirt just can wash into our septic tank. And then there's a lift pump taking the wastewater. Oh, there's an old trench silo where they would have stored and covered feed silage for cattle in those weeds there. And that just moves the gray water out there. So, on the Christmas story, the dad was wishing for a new furnace. I'm kind of wishing for a new septic system, but either way, I need to fix this tank here, and this is just like tin. It was a terribly poor tank, and when I started digging it out here, it's about, 5 foot long or so. I noticed it was duct taped over, so there were already holes in this tank. It was probably already rotten, and the guy just, he went for a permanent solution. But the whole thing's just terrible shape. So I have that old farm diesel or gas tank there, and that's probably 1/8 of an inch thick. So it'll hopefully at least outlast me, or at least as long as we need it to, till we get an actual septic system with a leach field in it, so forth. So anyway, I tried using this polar bar. I've installed many tanks on farm machinery, poly tanks with that thing. Especially if I'm working inside a shed in the wintertime or so forth, I'll just hang that right on my crane hook here, so I can have a low lift kind of thing, low ceiling height, but that just pulled the whole top off. So I went to this sheet metal clamp that you can use to lift whole sheets of steel with, and then it popped loose at a seam in the center. It looks like a welded seam. So I'm still concerned. I can get half of it out. I'm still concerned it's somehow attached down in there, but time will tell. This is just the fun I'm having. I need to get to town before I pull this out. I need to cut that pipe there and then take that rubber junction loose, buy a new one of those, buy a new PVC splicer that I can glue in. So before I go any farther, I've got to get that. So our downtime is as little as possible here, So anyway, fun. Thankfully, there was actually no bottom on that tank, and I cut my circle on both ends. I didn't know if this was the inside wall of the tank I just pulled out, or if that hole is just in the top of the 1,000-gallon tank, which is what it is. So I think I can just line up my two small holes here, and we'll be just fine. We'll set that down on there. But for now, I'm going to jump down in here. I'm hoping that's strong enough to hold me. I don't know what kind of metal that's made out of. I'm guessing the buckets were probably his step stool to get in and out of there. But I'm going to go in there with a shovel and a broom and just clean everything out. And then we'll go back together. So I got her all cleaned off, and luckily I was a little worried about what the condition of the holding tank would be, but luckily it is nice, thick, looks like fiberglass tank, so I at least don't have to worry about that being rotten in the ground, you know. You may ask, why are there things like window weights hanging from baling twine, and there's some rope here going down into the nasty stuff, and I don't know, but I don't need to know right now. So I've got my measurement up to my drain pipe here, and then I may even drill this once the tank's in. We'll see. So I'm going to go up, drill my holes, and we'll lower the new one in. I just keep tension on it. Oh, hold on. Okay, you come down. Alright, I had one boy running the crane, one had a chain going down to the standpipe there. Oh my, I forgot about the fan. Oh, I probably blew that motor up. Oh, the belt just came off. Okay, we haven't had a breeze for days. We have heat and humidity, rain comes through, and maybe a north breeze, but of course you see that's all blocked off from me. So I have been sweating. Oh man, it's been miserable. But enough of my problems. Anyway, like I was saying, I had a chain around the standpipe coming up through the top here. So the other gut fella was pulling on that, make sure it would line up, and then I was laying down on my belly, making sure everything went through. So we got that, so I think I'll go ahead and get the standpipe going. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll show you the end result. You probably have a clue what's going on by now. So Well, you can hear it running. Seems a little noisy. I don't know if I did something, but we'll make sure it turns off. Anyway, wiring's all done. That's all hooked up. That coupler's back. I've siliconed around both pipes. This piece of PVC is the old electrical line. And some of you that have been around a while, if you remember, we moved that shed there. There was a power cord coming out from there, out of the wall. They ran power all the way from that thing to here, right next to the house. So what I did, I snipped that and I ran it right into the house here, which seemed to make more sense to me. So anyway, not sure what's going on here. I don't know if that rope I pulled on has something to do with that, but I'll see if I can get it to shut off now. Backfill it, and maybe I'll show it to you all done. It's a tank in the ground after all, but anyway. Well, unfortunately, the pattern that I used to cut the hole with the plasma cutter ended up just barely too small. So I need to come in with a grinder and just widen it out a little bit, and then we'll be fine. I've just had the manhole cover flipped upside down over it for now, so you see, she's just gravitating towards it. What, do you want to fall in there? Anyway, it's a hole in the tank in the ground. I don't know what else to show you, but I'd like to come in here maybe with bricks or something, and I used to have a wooden cover over it and then the barbecue grill sitting on top of it. I don't know. I need to do something like that. But for today, there it is. Never stand in a field during a thunderstorm. So it was just about half an hour ago I was filming the storm, and it's still hanging around. Nothing raining here, it's all to the north. But you can see lightning must have found its mark over there. Yeah, there. That was exactly the spot. So, there you go. So I took that video of the storm and then went home, and that storm actually came directly towards us from the north, which is incredibly unusual, especially in summertime. Wintertime we usually get rain and snow from the northwest, but in July, no. Anyway, had tons of lightning, and our daughter was actually standing on her enclosed back porch with a camera, just taking pictures or video of the rain coming down and so forth. And a bolt of lightning hit. Oh, I would say these trees are probably 50 yards east of the house there. So she came in kind of freaked out, and understandably so. And that was kind of the end of it. And then the next morning I was at work and I got a call,
and said there's a dead tree on fire in our trees to the east of the house there. So I attached the grapple fork to the forklift and roaded it over there real quick. And sure enough, this thing was burning in there, and there's so much brush in these things that it could have all gone up eventually, I suppose. So anyway, tore it out real quick, and kind of struggling there that we have such sandy soil and it's so loamy under those trees that the telehandler here really didn't even want to drive around too easily, and then I've got a T-post marking our boundary line in there, so I really had to just be careful. But anyway, I got the whole tree, and I actually pulled several more trees out, and combined with all the trees that I knocked down by our house that you saw last time, we had quite a big pile. And it just sat there and smoldered all day, and I was kind of worried about it because it's summertime. We have a nice green cornfield to the north there, so I wasn't too worried about that starting on fire. But we looked out the window about 9 o'clock, 9:30, thinking about going to bed that evening, and the whole pile was on fire. So it burned itself out. And then the next morning after that, we had a nice foggy, wet, damp morning, which was nice. Just reassurance there. So anyway, it took care of itself. I guess I don't have to burn that brush. Normally I like to wait for, a nice wet fall day, or even with snow on the ground in the winter, before I burn that stuff. And anyway, took care of itself, and it's all burnt out now. These evergreens are something I pulled out previously. These dead ones laying by my target range backdrop there, and my shooting microwaves. I plan on cutting these up for fence posts. I want to move the sheep fence a little bit, so that's why I've saved those. Set those aside. They'll be a little more rot resistant. Those are western red cedars. A lot of sunflowers. I don't really know what I'm doing. I guess I'll have to push these big trunks in that didn't burn next time I have the forklift out here. But I guess that's all I have to say about that.
Those are just some of the things going on here around home, How about we do a little show and tell? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. That was staged. I'm sorry. Anyway, some of you know this little product well. You can see this is my sample here, and I've got all kinds of notations on it. And everyone that has bought one of these, I've sold maybe, I don't know, 24, 30 of them maybe. I can't remember exactly. Maybe I should keep better records. But this is the 1937 through 88 Chevrolet straight 6, inline 6 timing cover centering tool. You put that on the old snout of the crankshaft and center the seal around the crankshaft, so you don't get a bad oil leak there, or you don't get premature wear out of your seal because it's rubbing harder on one side than the other. You could probably certainly, this plastic material, this thing's gonna last forever, honestly. Some of you may use it once, some of you may use it several times, and several, how many Chevrolet 6-cylinders does a guy rebuild in his life anymore? Personally, I would prefer it a daily job, you know. This could even been used down at the factory, and I think it'll last quite a long time. But a guy is ever wanting to improve himself. So, and I needed more of these. I was out again. So a guy just came up with this. Now, you know, it may not be necessary, but man, it looks good, doesn't it? So what I'm saying is, all of you who have bought this, guys, I really appreciate it, and I thank you, and you're going to have a tool there that works forever. You know, all that glitters is not gold, so don't get distracted by that. But in case you haven't bought one, I just wanted to show you this. We got a CNC lathe at work, and so I hired them. You know, I didn't do it. I don't have a clue how to run the lathe, but some of the old coworkers, they turned them out for me. I bought the material, and which was no small price tag, as you can imagine, but that's chunk of aluminum that was close to the right dimensions, and then they turned her down for me. And then the broach, I did the broaching here on my manual, you know, 110-year-old or whatever shop press. That was a workout with the plastic. But the aluminum, yeah, was not going to do it. I had to use the crank handle. I don't know if you remember how that shop press looks and how it works, but you can go fast by spinning the cast iron wheel up top, and if you have some serious pressing to do, you use the lever that has a manual tooth and cog on top of that wheel that moves it just a little bit at a time. And I was having to do that to get these to broach. You know, it was going to take a long, long time. So I went to work and I used a hydraulic press this thing's an old beast, used to form stainless tabs for fertilizer tubes for what we do. This was actually bought when Dad-in-law bought out another guy's company like 30, 40 years ago. This came with it, came with the inventory. It's something that guy had made. I call it the log splitter because it looks like a vertical, it's just a hydraulic cylinder. And that worked really well. That really sped that. That went faster than me doing it by hand here on the plastic ones. So it worked really well. Anyway, it's basically exactly the same. The knurling's a little different, obviously, but I think that gives you a better grip than me doing a regular knurl on a lathe. So anyway, if there's any of you that have wanted one of these but haven't bought one yet, these are back up. I have 21 of them for sale. Actually 22, I should add one. Back up on the old eBay, just search for RMC-J-966 or just J-966. That is the Kentmore, the original part number for Kentmore tools that would have been mentioned in your Chevrolet service manuals. So there you go. They also work on small blocks, but small blocks do have dowel pins that center the timing cover on the front of the block around the crankshaft anyway. So not really necessary, but if you're working on a 6-cylinder, there you be. Hey look, red letter day. I actually prepared something. It's exciting, isn't it? So from Matthew 22:34 through 40, the greatest commandment. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied,
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. A question: what is the opposite outlook when compared to the answer that Jesus gave? What's the opposite mindset, attitude? In my opinion, it's self-centeredness. All sin has its origin, both in history and in our hearts, in self-centeredness. Think about sin, any sin, and you will find self-centeredness there. Well, contrary to popular belief in this messed up world we live in, I am not the center of the universe. No person is. Satan rebelled against God because this new being called man was coming. Let me rewind. Satan rebelled against God because this new being called man was coming. That would look like God, commune with God, be in covenant with God, and inherit the earth that God had made. He threw a hissy fit, and because of this self-centeredness, he first of all lost his position and place in heaven. Then he decided he must separate man from God. And how did he do it? Well, he's a deceiver, and that's all he is. He operates on half-truths and things that sound good, but are in reality very bad. And consider Matthew 4, his tempting Jesus in the wilderness. He used scripture, but he used it wrong. He used half-truths in an attempt to lure Jesus into self-centeredness. By convincing the very first people on earth that God had not told them the whole truth, and that if they were to break the rules, they too could be like God. In other words, forget obedience and love and sacrifice. God is the one being selfish and self-centered. So you had better look out for yourself and do this thing so that you will be like God. Oopsie, that plan sort of backfired, didn't it? They did not take God's word for it and found themselves in a world of hurt, literally. And that's the world, isn't it? They know that what they are doing isn't working. They know a lot of it is wrong. And too often, in an attempt to make themselves feel better about their situation, they try to drag others around them down with them. The truth is that they have a God-shaped hole in their heart. But unwilling to place God there, they instead keep trying to cram in a whole lot of garbage. Any one of us who is a believer has memories of something stupid they used to do. And I think all of us probably thank God on a regular basis for removing us from that situation. And that's the other side of what an unbeliever can't see. That's the 20/20 hindsight that is the result of faith. That's the moment when you say, okay, God, this isn't working. Now I'm doing it your way. And that's hard for someone to do, to put 6,000 years of self-centeredness aside and take God's word for it. That if you give him all of you, then your life will be so much better than it has ever been. It seems to me that so many women, more so than men, are predisposed toward these words that Jesus spoke. Women are often so willing to put everything aside if someone needs help, and they are much more in tune with people. As for me, however, when I got married, my wife, and later when we started... I said that wrong. As for me, however, when I married my wife, and later when we started our family, a selfish attitude became a glaring problem. I think many men through Christian history have loved Ephesians 5:22 through 24. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Yes! That sounds awesome! But let's back up to verse 21 first. Submit to one another
out of reverence for Christ. Ooh. It's a two-way street. And then jump back to 25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. You mean I don't only need to love my neighbor as myself, but I have to love my wife this way too? Yes, but there's even more to it than that. Oh, God asks wives to be submissive to husbands, that's true, but we have an even more responsibility. We are asked to do for our wives what Jesus did for the church, and continues to do for the church. That is, we are to be willing to sacrifice ourselves for her, and that could look very different in many different ways. A little while ago, we were having an impromptu family discussion with our boys on marriage and wives, and I jokingly said to them that your wife is basically like a new mommy, only one that you get to pick out. I was only joking, but the sad truth is that's the way far too many men approach their marriage. You know, my wife will do everything that mommy used to do for me. I'm not suggesting that I have it all together here, but it took me about 2 days of being married to understand what a wife wants. And I know some poor women that have been married 50 years and their husbands still don't act like they have a clue. What they want most out of you is help. There may be many reasons why she married you, but she wanted to spend her life with you because you were the one she wanted to help her get through it. She didn't need a 200-pound toddler crying for his macaroni and cheese. If you want to impress her and really get on her good side, etc., I dare you to let her catch you vacuum something or clean up the dishes or fix something she asked you to help her with 5 years ago. And she has just been living without it ever since. You know, help her out. Again, let me say that I don't get this right all of the time either, but I'm telling you, a little bit of sacrifice goes a long way. And I didn't really plan on this going off on the angle it did, but it must have needed to be said. And I also want to back up and say, especially to younger married couples, if there are any watching, or married men, back to 31. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become flesh. One flesh. And maybe it's better heard by the older generation. If there is a younger married couple in your family, or as time has gone on, they're now getting middle-aged, who knows? If you are the father and the mother, or the grandfather, the grandmother, you need to let that marriage take care of itself and bud out. Honestly. They have left your house and have made their own. Just saying. So above all, we are to love God with everything we have within us. And we are to love those around us as much as we love ourselves. Actually, considering that Christ died for the church, I would suggest we love others more than we love ourselves. Or in other words, any thought I give towards myself, any need, any want, any consideration, affirmation, attention, any hunger, any thirst, any healing, anything that I think I personally need, I need to be willing to give this to my neighbor. There you go. You can just mull over that, just chew on that for a while. I know I will, or I guess I have been. I want to say, got an email from Paul in Pennsylvania. Now, I've mentioned him a couple times. He had some pretty serious cancer, and then kind of a miraculous thing, they found the medicine he needed, about half a year ago. At a small town pharmacy, so that was an answer to prayer. And maybe a month ago now, he sent me an email that he went in for a checkup or whatever, and everything was looking great. So we thank God for that. If any of you guys out there in this little community of ours here have a prayer need, email it to me and I'll mention you here. Why not have this many more people praying for you? So if you want to get involved in that way, just like I said, get in touch with me. I'd prefer on that stuff, I would prefer a direct email asking for a prayer request. That way I know I will see it. I do not always get all the comments, and sometimes it takes a while for me to get to comments, And I know this is just a monthly thing that I do for now. But either way, if you would like to share that with us and have that said, then send her to me. Other than that, that's all I have. That's probably enough, right? So we have some family members over, my sister and her husband and family, and we are going to go out and see some things, go to an old Indian Wars era fort, the one where I used to volunteer in the blacksmith shop, and we'll go check that out. Hopefully not spend all day out there. We will be fried, looking like raisins by the end of the day if we do. So anyway, nobody was up yet, and of course I'm always up. So hey guys, thanks a lot for joining me. God bless you. See you on the next one. Need a refill. Need a warm-up.